Hey guys, are you ready to transform your mind so you can transform your life? Coach Myrna brings you one-on-one coaching and expert guests weekly to help you to grow. Because happiness is the progressive realization of a worthy goal.
Looking for personal growth? Let's do it. Whether you're a garage entrepreneur or IPO ready, Shopify is the only tool you need to start, run, and grow your business without the struggle. Shopify puts you in control of every sales channel. So whether you're selling superfood smoothies or offering organic omega-3s, Shopify's all-in-one e-commerce platform got you covered. Sign up for $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/transform, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/transform to take your business to the next level today.
Welcome back to Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio and podcast. I'm your host, Life Coach Myrna Young, and sitting in the guest chair today is Candice McCaine. Candice and I are going to be talking on the very important topic of how to find hope in the face of fear. You know, Candice has a very interesting story, and she wrote her book so that she can help, other women or even men or children or whatever that need to find some hope. They fear a lot of things. And, so this book is an inspirational book. So I hope that you can walk away with something, some of the lessons that, Candice has learned that you want to share with you. And, and then in the end, go pick up a copy of her book and be inspired, because, the reason that God gives you a test is so that you can have a testimony and that you can help other people with your testimony. So welcome, Candice.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. So, Candice, I'm going to start right off by diving right in. I've read a copy of your book, and I noticed that you had some challenges. And the first one I want to, highlight is alcoholism. Can you tell us about your alcoholism journey, and then how you found the strength and the resilience to overcome that?
Sure. So many years ago, it's been 13 years, I had an injury, and I wasn't able to work, and I was in a lot of pain. And basically, I defined myself most of my life as a person who was very productive. And that was my purpose. It was to produce. And when I couldn't, because I couldn't work, I felt sorry for myself. I had self-pity, and I had a lot of pain. And I thought, well, how am I going to get through this? And I said to myself that I was going to drink and go to bed. So basically, I was going to check out of life. And so I drank on purpose to check out, because I couldn't cope with the pain that I had. And I think the reasons that, the other reasons that led me to drink, which was a lot of stress that I had in my life at that time as well. And so that's how it started. And at my very lowest point, I reached out to somebody, and I had no idea that this person was an alcoholic. And I don't know what possessed me to reach out to this person, but I guess I was done, and I had a willingness, which is very, very important. If you want to stop drinking, you have to reach what they call a bottom. And so mine was an emotional bottom, and I had enough, but I didn't know how to stop. Like every day I'd say, okay, I'm not going to drink it anymore. And then I would drink. So I definitely needed help. And by the grace of God, this person said, sure, I'm picking you up, or Candice, I'm picking you up and I'm taking you to AA. So I said, okay. And that was the beginning. And so, I went a few times. It was hard for me to admit that I was an alcoholic at the very beginning, even though I knew I had a drinking problem, but eventually I admitted it and was fine. Um, so that's how my alcoholism started. And the most wonderful thing about it was that um, I was at the lowest point when I started. I felt very bad about myself. So therefore my self-esteem was very low. And they told you, hey, just don't drink for today. And you're fantastic. Like that's your goal for today. And so that gave me a purpose. And when I didn't drink, it was like I accomplished something and I started to feel better about myself. But it was hard. But I had a lot of support from the people in AA who reached out to me and called me, what are you doing? And, I went to a lot of meetings. And so it was one day at a time. It was just one day at a time. And that's how I did it. And the other thing is that I wanted to point out was that there was a slogan. They have what they call slogans in AA, and people would give their testimony. And, sometimes I would listen to other people and say, oh, well, I didn't do this or I didn't do that. And then I would look over at the board and see these slogans, and the slogan said, yet, one of them. And I thought, okay, that's pretty scary slogan. I could be just like these other people's. I could have their story if I don't stop drinking, right? I mean, I didn't drink and drive yet, so that really helped keep me sober.
Okay.
And it, yeah. And
Yeah,
the first, sorry, go on.
yeah, I'm saying that's pretty good, yeah, a lot of times our self-esteem is based on our titles, what we do, whether we're in a relationship, there's all these things that we add to ourselves in order to feel that we're important. And I think one of the things you mentioned in your book as well is that you were lonely. Who was in your life at the time? You mentioned that the person that you reached out to, you didn't know that they were an alcoholic. Was it a friend of yours, an acquaintance?
It was an old friend. It was an old friend from high school.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
So
Again,
what made you?
I don't know what made me do it. Like, I really believe that um I believe in God, so God's my higher power, and in AA you can choose whatever higher power you desire or whatever your beliefs are. It's not a religious program, it's a spiritual program. So it was just too much of a coincidence that that I called this person and didn't know, and then they took me, and that was like my first belief. Like I believed in God before, but I had shut God out of my life because I had a lot of stress. I had a lot of problems. And when I did that, it was like darkness. But when I start to believe in God again, or reconnect with my higher power, there was light, and I had to stay in that light.
Well, listen, as a woman of faith as well, I understand exactly what you're saying. And I know that, I would describe the fact that you chose this particular person, a high school friend that, I'm going to make the assumption that you hadn't really kept in touch with, and to call this person. And we all have angels, and we all have, the Holy Spirit in us that guides us and makes these decisions, and it guides me all the time. I get these inspired actions, what I call it, to do something, and it turns out to be a perfect thing. So yeah, I mean, that is amazing. I was watching this very powerful movie last night where a woman was addicted to meth and she couldn't stop. Then she was kidnapped and that brought her sober or drug free immediately. She was kidnapped, and their kidnapper wanted her to take meth, and she refused to, with a gun pointed to her head, and she said she wasn't going to do it. But a lot of times, we have to be put in situations where you're right. You're thinking you can't stop. You're thinking that, because what happens, it calls us. Addiction affects our brain, and the brain keeps asking for this, and it's very, very hard to say no. So I understand why you can't stop. So you said that you had hit bottom. You want to share what made you think that what was your trigger for bottom?
Okay, well, I literally felt like I was losing my mind, and I just don't want to live this way anymore. It was, there's two parts to AA. Like step one, that is, I'm powerless over alcohol, and my life's become unmanageable. And I knew I was powerless over alcohol. That was easy for me because I wanted to stop drinking and go back to work, but I couldn't stop drinking. So therefore, I knew that I was powerless because, like you said, something in your brain says, I have to have a drink. I have to have this now. It's like becomes an obsession of the mind, So that, was my bottom. And it made my life very unmanageable. And it made my life unmanageable because it made my problems worse. It made my problems worse, made my mood worse. I had anxiety. It was like a boomerang effect. At first you feel better and then you feel worse. It talks about that in our big book. And I wanted to feel better. So, So, and I didn't like myself. I didn't like the way I was behaving, and mood swings, and it wasn't me.
Well, yeah. I mean, the first part is wanting to change, and one of the things about alcoholism is that I know that from what I know about the addiction, is once you start, you can't stop. But the good thing about alcoholism is that, at least I think, from what I've learned, is it's one of those things that, once you control that, I'm not going to have a drink, you don't have any of the withdrawal symptoms like heroin and all those type of things, right?
Shopify is the commerce platform revolutionizing millions of businesses worldwide. Usually, improvements don't come overnight, but once in a while, one small fix can catapult you to the next level. If your commerce platform is holding your business back, you owe it to yourself to see what Shopify can do for you. Whether you're a garage entrepreneur or IPO ready, Shopify is the only tool you need to start, run, and grow your business without the struggle. Shopify puts you in control of every sales channel. So whether you're selling satin sheets from Shopify's in-person POS system or offering organic olive oil on Shopify's all-in-one e-commerce platform, you're covered. And once you've reached your audience, Shopify has the internet's best converting checkout to help you turn them from browsers to buyers. Sign up for $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/transform, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/transform to take your business to the next level today.
This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Do you have a tendency to compare yourself to others? Does social media play a part in that? What do you do when you get caught up wishing your life looked like someone else's? Comparison is the thief of joy, and it's easy to envy other people's lives.
It might look like they have it all together on their Instagram, but in reality, they probably don't. One of the benefits of therapy is that a therapist can help you focus on what you want instead of what others have, so you can start living your best life. Therapy is helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. It isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire and get matched with a licensed therapist. You can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Stop comparing and start focusing with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/TYM today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/TYM.
So, and I'm glad you mentioned spiritual, because I know I had someone I was engaged to, addicted to crack cocaine, and he went through the Salvation Army program several different times. And the Salvation Army program is a spiritual program because they say that you really can never quit unless you hold on to the spirituality. So I'm glad that you brought that, because if you just use your flesh and your willpower, you probably are not going to be successful unless you hold on to a higher power. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, that's the problem. Unfortunately, AA is the gold standard. But a lot of people, unfortunately, like I was brought up, I asked my father once, who's God when I was a kid? And it really struck me, his answer, and I got it. And he said, it's just blind faith. Either you believe or you don't. He made it really simple for me. I was just very young, and okay. It was just like that choice, and it really is that choice, but it could be any higher power. It's not and so what happens in AA is a lot of people come into it having had their own experience with God, and sometimes it's negative, and they have a difficulty relating to this third step where we turn our lives and our wills over to a higher power. And so it's not it's so successful for them, and they struggle.
Right. But I know yeah. So it's the third step and the 12th step. So, because it's very important, you got to turn your health. Yeah. You turn your life over to a higher power, so that you can tap in to your spiritual self, which, something I love to say is that the spirit rules the man. So you've got to tap in to that, the spiritual being. And you're right. Whether if you're a Christian, you believe in Jesus and God, or if you're a Muslim, you're Allah, or you could be a Buddhist, but anything that has to do with spirituality and not just your flesh body, because your flesh is weak. You've got to turn it over. You've got to tap in to higher consciousness, which is probably a better way, a higher consciousness.
Right. And that is a power. That is a power. There's a power there.
Yes. Yes, exactly. So, so that's awesome. So you, how long did it take you to go through the program? And I'm assuming you came out of that, you talk about, the strength and the resilience. What was it that helped you, to be successful?
Well, I really wanted it to change my life. So I had the willingness. I wanted first, but it was still very hard at the beginning. And so first I stayed sober for my sponsor, and then for my father. I found reasons, right? Besides myself, until I wanted to do it for myself, like really want to do it for myself, So, yeah, that's how I did it.
How you did it. Okay. Well, that's great. Yes. And that's the beautiful thing about AA and a sponsor, because it's your accountability partner, right?
Right.
So you don't want people to be disappointed in you. And, listen, that system is tested, and every step is created for a reason. And it does help a lot of people. So if you're listening and, you are like Candice and had a problem with alcoholism, or any kind of drug dependency or something like that, find a support group and, tap into, their program, because it's created with your success in mind. And, having a support is one of the most important things, because if you don't have any support, then, you end up doing something crazy, like, committing suicide or something. So that's amazing. All right. So, thank you for sharing that, Candice. I appreciate that. So one of the questions I have here, though, at the end of each chapter in your book, you talk about what, this particular thing in your life taught you. And I think one of the things you said is that you're grateful for alcoholism, that it's, talk about that for a minute. How was alcoholism a blessing in disguise? And what are some of the things that it taught you about life?
Well, it taught me a lot about life. It, like, I was always afraid of life. My father used to say, Cheryl, you can't be afraid of life. I guess maybe because I have anxiety, and it really helped to ground me. The tools I learned in AA helped to bring peace and groundedness to my life. And it transformed me. Okay, I'll give you an example. Before, I would stick my nose maybe into people's business when I had no business doing that, right? Now, AA teaches you to just mind your own side of the street. And they say that you try to avoid conflict at all costs because it blocks you from the sunlight of the spirit. It doesn't mean that you lie down and, you don't stand up for yourself, but you learn to talk about how you feel and keep it to your side of the street, as opposed to putting blame necessarily on the other side. Not to say that other people aren't to blame, but you're really looking at your part. So sometimes we think other people are to blame, but then we see how we got the ball rolling, it says in my book. So the book taught me, or the program taught me, that what I am responsible is for my reactions to things and nothing else.
Wow. And I've never heard it put that way before. I'm going to borrow that or steal it or something.
Okay.
Find your own side of the street. I love it.
Exactly.
Yes.
And you have more peace in your life when you do that, right? Because then you're not having confrontation. Not to say that you shouldn't have conflict sometimes, but it's a way you learn how to deal with the conflict. You understand better what your part is, and it changed me.
I love it. I love it. Listen, blame is one of the worst things that we can do. I told you that before we hit record, that I also wrote a book that was, semi-biographical, called Out of the Snares. And one of the things I talk about in there is blame. I went through traumatic childhood experiences, but I've never blamed my perpetrator, because, again, even though that was wrong, what he did, I didn't go around in life saying that whatever happened to me, it was because of that. And one of the things I say in my book is that you've got to become a player. And I used the analogy of a blackjack. Even though the dealer might be showing a high card and you've got a low card, you can still win in this game of life by playing with the cards that you've got, or you playing with the cards that you've dealt, and not blaming anybody. So I've heard the analogy of the player and the victim kind of thing, but I've never heard the one about, stay on your side of the street. I love it.
Well, I just wanted to add one thing about it, and that is I found that, there's an acronym in AA, which is for fear: face everything and recover, or F everything and run. right? And I was the F everything and run.
Right.
And
Yeah.
when I started to face everything and recover, I noticed that you really have to go through things and then you don't have to go through them again. But when you're dealing with alcoholism, if you're active alcoholism, you're constantly, circling a drain.
Yeah.
So you're never really you're never really getting to the other side.
Yes, you're right. Because every time you take that drink, you go right back to the beginning, right? You're just right. You go right back to the beginning. Wow. Again, you're full of new information here for me. I never heard of that one. My acronym for fear is false evidence appearing real.
That's another one.
So this is a new one for me too. My goodness, you're giving me a lot of new information here today. I'm loving it. All right.
Good.
So that was pretty good information about alcoholism, and it should help, anyone that's listening on that. You're obviously an excellent advocate for AA, and great that you had such a pleasant, positive experience with them. And now you are advocating that, get to a meeting, so that's amazing. Now, you talk a lot about your dad in your book, what he told you, the lessons he taught you about working and your relationship with your dad. So share that relationship and how do you think it affected you? Do you think that maybe some of the lessons that he taught you was responsible for maybe your drinking, or no?
Well, I don't want to blame my father for drinking. I mean, I didn't see him come home after work and drink or anything like that. But he was a very larger than life figure. And I loved my dad so much, and I wanted to please him, and I wanted to succeed, and I wanted him to be proud of me, which I think is normal. But I couldn't, because he was this larger than life figure, it was very sometimes hard to match that, like he was my role model, and I had to come to a point where I realized that I'm me and he's him, and I can't be him. But I have other things that are good, And so it's I had to learn to admire him and at the same time admire myself. And he taught me, a few things. He taught me, well, quite a few things, but he always would say, do the right thing. Always do the right thing. And, what I learned from him is when I didn't listen to him, that was a big lesson because he was usually right. He taught me to work hard and that hard work wouldn't kill me. He taught me that life needed, you had to be enjoyed. It was to be enjoyed. So he believed in work-life balance. And he also was very strong family man and taught me that to respect my elders, and that family came first. So we always visited my grandparents every weekend, no matter what. And he told me to help those in need. And he used to help. He created a program for feeding the hungry, and he fed them 3 meals 3 times a week. And the other thing is that he told me work needs to be independent and fiercely independent. And I think that really stuck with me, and that put a lot of pressure on me. Not trying to say women shouldn't be independent, but it put a fear in me, the way he said it. And he was a lawyer, so he dealt with these kind of things. And I think that put a fear in him that he transferred to me. And it was good advice, but I think it was the way he said it to me that really stuck with me and created a little bit of fear.
Would you like to offer your support for reparations for people of African descent to compensate for slavery and racial oppression? StolenFamiliesOfAfrica.com is a site that allows you to make a statement with your clothing. They offer sweatshirts, hoodies, hats, and t-shirts with the words Stolen Families. Support the call for reparations by ordering and wearing your clothing proudly. Why reparations? Restitution is the form of reparations for numerous ignored descendants of slavery living in America. Show your support in black and white at StolenFamiliesOfAfrica.com.
Right. That's one of the reasons I asked the question, because you didn't say that in your book. But I know that when we have these, I'm going to say, unrealistic expectations in our life, it usually comes from a parent that put them there. So I wasn't saying that, your dad was an alcoholic and you saw him drink and that's why you became an alcoholic, or maybe he abused you or whatever. But I knew that there was a correlation that when you were sitting at home and you were drinking because you had low self-esteem and you felt nobody loved you or whatever, those thoughts are put there by someone else. It's, and we can always go back to our parents or caregivers to find those kind of lessons. And that's why I asked you that. And then I saw you say something about, the work hard, and he wanted you to do one thing and you decided to do something else as far as your business men always, I shouldn't say always, but a lot of men, because they're the provider and all they know to do is work and provide, and they're very short on the loving part, excuse me, is that they teach people what they know. Go to work. My husband is the same thing.
You can do what you know.
Father, right, exactly. His father tells him, hey, go to work. He saw his father work 10 hours a day, come home every night and crash because he's working from 14-hour days, 6 a.m, come home at 8 p.m, and that's what he does. He works hard, But included in that, you said something about your father trying to teach you work-life balance, which is kind of an oxymoron. But there's somebody that says work hard has no work-life balance. They just work.
Well, he taught it to me vicariously he was like, I don't think many people, he was always on the go. He was always busy, but he always made time for his family, his friends. Like, he seemed to achieve that work-life balance. And so I learned that from him, right? By watching him and how he brought us up. But, I say, Dad, I'm working hard, and he'd say, good.
Yes, I guess you're right. You were modeling him in a certain way where he was giving you conflicted information. One, work hard. He was always on the go, but yet he finds time for family, which is actually very good. Because most people don't have that, their kids grow up and they were not around, and then they're sorry, or the relationship is bad, and all they say, well, hey, you know what? I was working all the time, and your mom is the one that, took care of you guys and all that. So that was actually good. And then your dad had cancer, and when I was reading the story, it looked like, the way you told it looked like he was gonna die from the cancer, and then he recovered from pancreatic cancer. And I'm thinking, wow, but then he did succumb to that. So, anybody that wants to understand that we were talking about alcoholism, we were talking about cancer a lot in this book, listen, go pick up, Candice's book and read the details of her story. But the reason I'm touching it on it here is because your dad featured so prominently in your life, and then he died. What advice do you have for anyone that's listening that's lost a parent or a spouse as far as handling grief?
Well, I think it's a very personal thing, but I think overall, grief comes in waves. I think it's the thing with my father is I loved him very much, but the other thing was I used to fight. We used to fight, and especially before AA and when I used to stick my nose into things. And so I think that helped in a way because it was an honest relationship and I was able to get out of my system, how I felt. And I think that's really important. So I don't hold any resentments or anything toward my dad. And I think that, like my dad was very sick and at the end I was able to give back to him, which was another gift given to me from AA. Because one of the biggest thing is when you're alcoholic, there's a rippling effect, right? It doesn't just affect you, but affects everybody around you. And so thank God, because of AA, I was able to give back to my dad and help to look after him. And then when he died, I went through this journey with him and I saw that, enough was enough. But in my book, my book is a lot about things you can't see, miracles. There were a lot of miracles that happened. And I had written them all down so that I would never forget. And anytime I went and doubted God, I could go back and read those. And so that's really where my book came from, was from those spiritual experiences, those miraculous experiences. Like my dad had a miraculous remission that nobody could explain. No doctor could explain.
Yeah, because it was very interesting. I'm reading along and you're talking about your dad saying nobody survives pancreatic cancer. And then the next thing I see, he survived.
Right. He had a remission for 5 months. He did.
Mm.
It was miraculous. There were a lot of miracles that happened. And so the book isn't a heavy book in terms of, bringing you down. The reason I wrote the book was to give hope.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always hope. And I was able, again, because of my program, to, they teach you a lot of gratitude. So, how I got through the anticipatory grief of him dying, too, was, praying a lot. I cried a lot. And I kept telling myself that, as long as my dad's fighting this, I'm going to fight along with him spiritually. And so every day I prayed. Every single morning, I lit candles and prayed. And I did my part. And I helped him. And then I left the rest up to my higher power. And then when he passed, I ended up buying a cat, which was a real gift, and named it after my father's cat. And that passed. And, it really, 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 really helped me a lot. And I was never a cat person. So it's another miracle. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Listen, I mean, I can tell that like you said, your book is not very heavy. And I'm glad that our conversation today is how to find hope, in the face of fear, because, yeah, I mean, when we lose a parent or somebody that's been, you said, bigger than life in your life, and that's the only person, that you've been around, taught you all these lessons and all that, we kind of fear how we're going to survive when they're not around. But you found hope in that, and yeah, AA gave you hope as far as alcoholism, and then you also had your own cancer journey. What are the lessons that that taught you?
It taught me a lot of lessons, and they're in the book. But you really have to be proactive, as people know, but My own cancer journey. Well, I wanted my book to be informative as well. So I give information in there about the type of cancer I had and how I was, the information that was given to me and the information that wasn't given to me. And I really wanted people to know about the information that wasn't given to me because it made a difference when my cancer came back. And so, yeah, so I wanted people to know about that.
That's good. Yes, that's good. Yeah. And I'm assuming you're cancer free now.
I'm cancer free now. I have another kind of cancer now.
Wow.
It's not funny, but I mean, it's a rare cancer. Just found out a few weeks ago. It's a
Oh, so
blood cancer.
sweet.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Right now, it's okay. It's indolent right now. So it's like just in watch, not going through any treatments or anything. But yeah, I'm kind of gotten immune to this cancer business in
Wow.
terms of, hearing about it and dealing with it quite a bit. But look, I'm here talking to you and we're laughing and,
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, no, I don't define myself by these things, you know. I am a lot of things. And I think that people sometimes define themselves by one thing and you can't do that. I
Yeah.
mean,
Well,
you
you
can
learned
do that, but you don't feel good about yourself if it doesn't work out.
that. Right. Well, you learned that, and you had a fabulous teacher, it seems, from AA. I'm very impressed. Because yes, you've come through that like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly.
Yeah.
You're a spiritual being, and you understand that life is full of challenges, and you face them head on, and then just pray and leave it up to God. I'm assuming that that's what you're doing.
Yep. You do your part. You mean you can't just lie down and hope that someone's going to help you. You need to do your part. Yeah.
Yes, yes, right. Wow. Yeah. So, you know, I understand the hope and listen, I'm definitely, going to send some prayers for you on your journey. And, hope that you continue to beat cancer. I mean, there's a book that, I interviewed a gentleman in the show. And I was so impressed. I don't buy every book, but there's some people that come through. I go ahead and pick up a copy of the book. And he wrote a book called Cycle of Lives, and he interviewed a whole bunch of people in the book regarding people that survived cancer, some people that died from cancer. And one of the ladies in the book made the statement, I don't get colds, I get cancer, because she survived it like 5 times and she's still living. So I know that cancer comes back, and I wouldn't have never thought that you can survive cancer 5 times and still living. And I've interviewed several people on the show that have had their cancer battles and it comes back and you beat it. So yeah, definitely have hope, and yeah, keep praying and keep doing your part. And I guess one of your part is being stress free and meditating and eating right. And these are all the things that people can do for themselves. So that is amazing. All right. So why did you write Facing Fear, Finding Hope?
Um,
I know that you wanted to share your story, but what do
okay,
you want?
I can tell you it's a bit, I'll keep it short, but what happened was I didn't intend initially to write the story, but talking about spirituality, something in me told me to write. And the same thing happened after my father passed. Something told me to paint, and I've been painting for 8 years and taking lessons. And I never thought I would ever do that because I wasn't good at art in school. And so something told me to write, and I reached out to a teacher. I looked at this course and I was interested, but it was expensive. So I decided not to. And then a few months later, I received message from her saying that she had a scholarship and did I want it? And so, of course, I thought, oh my God, I can't get away from this. I have to I have to take this course. So I only had to pay half price. And then the first day of class, she talked about healing, how writing can be healing. And so, and I really enjoyed her course. And she taught me a timeline because sometimes you just don't know where to start. So part of the course was like, mapping out what happened during a certain period of time. And that really helped me. And then I had my stories ready. So it wasn't very difficult for me to write this book. And so that's how it came to me. So it was again something that came to me that I wasn't expecting. So another thing they teach you in is keep an open mind.
Your angels are directing you at every turn. So yeah. So like I said in the very beginning of this conversation, that God gives you a test so that you can have a testimony, and you're doing an excellent testimony of the goodness of God. So anyway, go ahead. What were you saying?
Yeah, so I was just hoping that it will help others, help other people, and if it helps one person, it was worth it.
Yes, of course. Of course. Right. So if you were to have a bumper sticker, and I were to say that, what do you want when someone puts down the book? What do you want them, what is the message you want them to walk away with?
That's a good question. I want them to feel good. I want them to, the book is like I said, it's not heavy. It is heavy. The topics are heavy, but I don't think you walk away from the book feeling sad. I think you walk away from the book very hopeful. And if I can get through something like this, and that was my greatest fear in life, was my father dying since I was a young kid. I don't know why, but I used to worry about it a lot. And then I got through it, and I was able to help him. The book has a lot of miracles, and it talks about nature too, and our connectedness to nature. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of they're vignettes. They're written in vignettes. So they're short stories, so it's an easy read. Mm-hmm. And so I just would like the person to walk away, and, different things will resonate with different people. Some people have never had cancer, or some people haven't lost somebody that they love, or, it talks about many different things, and talks about life. Mm-hmm. And so that's it. I just hope that it resonates with somebody and it helps them.
Yes, that's beautiful. Yeah, it's a story about life. And yeah, you talk about your battle with alcoholism. You talk about finding a career, your business. You talk about your relationship with your dad, and then seeing him die, or watching him die. And then you touch on your cancer journey. That's life, and you can't let life beat you down. You've got to meet it and match it, and do your part. So it's beautiful, and I think that that anybody that's battling with any kind of addiction, or their own health journey, or losing a loved one, because we all have been touched by that, can benefit from hearing about your miracles and hearing about how you found hope. So yes, that is the purpose that God wanted you to write this book. So yeah, he even sent you to, somebody offering a scholarship, and and he also directed you to call that person that took you to AA. That is the start. That is the start. So listen, I enjoyed my conversation with you. Thank you for coming on the show and being transparent and sharing your story. I hope that the listeners that are listening to this will, run and pick up a copy of your book, because stories is what helps us to meet the world. When they say, if God can do it for her, he can do it for me. Yes, a testimony helps people when they're in their own journey. So thank you for sharing. How can someone pick up a copy of your book?
Well, right now it's on Amazon. It's called Facing Fear, Finding Hope. And it should be in, well, at Barnes and Noble. I think it will be in 50 stores, and I'm not sure which 50 stores that will be. But I guess the easiest way to get it is on Amazon.
And Amazon, right? Exactly. All right, so that's beautiful. Do you have any social media handles that you want to share or not?
Nope. No, not now.
All right, you're not in social media. All right. Well,
I'm not. I'm a pretty private person. Even though I've come out and shared all this.
Right. I know. I understand. Listen, you're doing a good job. Yes, you're sharing because you've been given the mandate to help someone else. So I thank you for, writing your book, coming on the show, and trying to inspire. Yes, when you talked about your book is not heavy, even though it talks about some heavy topics, it is a light book. You know why it's light? Because hope is light. Hope is looking up into the sky. It's not something that ties you down into the earth. So that's why it's light. It's like a balloon, right? So it's light and airy. That's what hope is. And that's what the book is all about. And hope. So, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you guys for tuning in to this week's episode of Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life. Support Candice for writing this book to help you by heading out to Amazon or Barnes and Noble and picking up a copy of her book. It's very easy to find it. It's Facing Fear, Finding Hope. I will have a transcript of my conversation with Candice on the show page, which is myhelps.us, but also linking out to her book. So all you got to do is click and download or order a physical copy. So Candice, I want to thank you for sharing. I wish you, I'm sending you blessings on the challenges that you're still facing. I know that you will do all right because you've got the right mindset, and that's what we need in order to navigate the challenges of this world, is to have the correct mindset. So, thank you. So as we wrap up, any last words you want to leave?
I just want to tell the people that sometimes we're in a situation that's very challenging, but you're never alone.
Yes, that is good. Yes, you're never alone. You've got the Holy Spirit, you've got God, you've got angels, you've got all kinds of people that, yes, and you're never alone. Right. Well, on that positive note, thank you guys for tuning in to this week's episode. If you're listening to this on iTunes, I would love for you to give us a rating and hit that subscribe button, because I try to bring you guests that will help you transform your mind to transform your life every single week. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Candice. And until next time, namaste.
Namaste.